Power Rangers Dino Fury, which really ought to have been called Dino-Mites, is an entry in the long-running Power Rangers series, and for the fourth time, it features dinosaurs. As with all other Power Rangers series, it is overflowing with toyetic cheese, deep-cut references to the convoluted franchise history, and loads of goofy charm. It's certainly not as savvily silly as Dino Charge, but there are no attempts made to hide the humor in this inherently comical premise. And what is that premise exactly? Well, basically, there are evil aliens known as Sporix, Dino-Knights who sacrificed everything to contain them, and a new generation of Dino-Knights, and also a mysterious villain who wants to control the Sporix for himself. Both the Rangers and the villains compete in a mad dash to capture as many Sporix as possible. There are the usual pitfalls with this cartoonishly absurd Monster of the Week format. Even though the Power Rangers are a known quantity in this universe, as are their good deeds, many people are arbitrarily skeptical of monsters and magic at first. Each episode introduces at least one new plot hole and a bizarre development, especially when viewed through the lens of long-term villain motivations, and everyone keeps ignoring obvious solutions to their problems. They all also talk aloud about everything, blankly stating their thoughts. One can argue that's all part of the charm, and there is some genuinely good characterization to back it up. The cast of Rangers this time around is thankfully bursting with personality, however archetypal and predictable said personality may be. Ollie's scientific skepticism clashes really well with Amelia's passionate superstition, Javi and Izzy bring some splendid sibling chemistry to the table, and Zato's innocent alien shtick fuels some lighthearted comedy. They're all allowed their own time to shine and even pull out some serious surprises. Special shoutouts to the scene where Izzy rips the skirt right off her Ranger uniform. It's a forceful feminist proclamation communicated quite proudly. She even gets a sweet relationship with another female athlete down the line. So yeah, you go girl. Ion is probably the most complex of the bunch, being the obligatory sixth and coolest Ranger, getting a few episodes which deconstruct that status. Overall, the Rangers are a good team, their banter is adorable, and I particularly enjoy how excited they all are to be Power Rangers. They're always like, oh boy, I get to use Zords now? I'm so hype for Zord time! It's a little uncanny since they're constantly risking their lives and all, but it's also joyously infectious. On the villain side, Void Knight, the primary antagonist, is a traditional tragic character, doing whatever it takes to revitalize his comatose bride. He wears a hyper-masculine facade of strength to disguise his desperation. His end goal is quite simple, but it's constantly interrupted by the bumbling ignorance of those around him, which makes his anger rather relatable. He's probably the most enjoyable character on the show. He's trying his best, alright? There's also a menagerie of secondary baddies, with special shoutouts going to Slither, the hyper-performative theater magician. Just look at this goofy guy.
Slash! Dodge! Shield! Noble sacrifice!
Dino Fury quickly establishes a formula with these elements and does little to stray from it. Occasionally there are some compelling twists which successfully recontextualize the ongoing struggle, but almost nothing has any lasting consequence. The show seems almost allergic to consequence. It goes out of its way to set up these massive payoffs, then undermines them the very next episode. It ruins the emotional impact a fair bit. Also, they shoehorn in a bunch of blatant nostalgia pandering, even going so far as to bring back Lord Zed in the most comically inept fashion. Like, super comically inept, introducing and rapidly resolving several disparate plot elements just to force him back to relevancy. This is all bearable in Season 1 because it feels like it's at least going somewhere, but early Season 2 is a bit much. Things are twice as formulaic, they introduce a ton of incredible contrivances, and it wears rather thin. The Rangers have these special keys, right? Which are basically just power-ups from a video game, and they have so many of these things, and they all perform laughably specific functions, which happen to be just what the Rangers need at any given moment. The villains are also capable of pulling random magical gadgets out of their butt at a moment's notice. On the bright side, this is all very reminiscent of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. On the downside, it's not great storytelling. In many ways, Dino Fury exemplifies the traditional Power Rangers experience. It's got a predictable Monster of the Week narrative structure, a ton of beautifully embarrassing puns, occasional flashes of self-awareness, and some obviously toyetic tricycles, super modes, and giant robots. If you love old-fashioned Ranger formula, Dino Fury delivers. The overarching narrative themes primarily revolve around the idea of legacy. No surprise there. A couple of the episodes feature a surprisingly profound sense of longing and nostalgia, wherein the two alien characters endure a homesickness and affectionate mourning for their lost culture. It's on the nose and highly manipulative, with treacly background music that forcefully insists the intended mood, but hey, it fits with the rest of the show. This is a bombastic, louder-than-life representation of superhero drama. Subtlety is not one of its mission statements. Anyway, things eventually amp up when Void Knight gets what he wants, in a bad way. His wife successfully resurrects, reinventing herself as the Void Queen. Unlike her partner, her motivations are purely sinister. She wants revenge on humanity itself, and she'll destroy anything in her way. Then Void Knight gets a pretty rad redemption arc, the whole crew has well-earned, long-awaited character development, some stellar foreshadowing pays off, and it all builds to... oh hey, it's Lord Zed again. He sure is here to interrupt the ongoing plot with his antics. Thankfully, said antics are actually kinda worthwhile, involving a clever ploy for Zed to bolster his own forces, abusing Void Queen's haughty naivete. It's not bad, as evil plots fare, and it's a good reason to see Zed as a real threat, as opposed to only an informed one. All the disparate elements do ultimately come together in a big climax, and it's as much as anyone could hope for. There are betrayals, triple backstabs, planet-wide destruction, interdimensional and interplanetary politics, Zed is trapped, and every plot element is expertly resolved. Ah, wait, Zed's back again, because he escaped somehow. See, this is what I mean. Allergic to consequence. All the emotional highs feel pretty pointless when paired with such limp conviction. Even Zeto's heroic sacrifice is undone with a textbook deus ex machina. Nothing ever feels definite, so when the series ends on a cliffhanger, that too is utterly hollow. We have no reason to believe anything will be resolved in Cosmic Fury. It's a true shame because Dino Fury really does shoot for the stars. It draws together elements from all Power Rangers history, every character gets exceptional emotional development, the Earth almost gets swept up in a gangbang between the Spork's overlords, the jealous remnants of a dead alien world, and Lord Zed himself. They try to do it big, and they succeed in that much, at least.